Good evening. We're going to call this meeting of the Milford Board of Education to order for Thursday, March 18th of 2021. We'll begin with roll call, please.
Mr. Yockey?
Here.
Mrs. Brady?
Here.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Here.
Mr. Miranda?
Here.
Mr. Ham?
Here, thank you. As a note, Emily will be joining us remotely. You do get to see her picture here, but she'll be listening in and making comments. And she's also live, so that's good. Welcome, Emily. Okay, next I'm going to introduce the Boy Scout Troop 135 out of St. Veronica. This could present tonight's colors, as well as lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Color guard, advance. Color guard, halt. Post the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard reform. Color guard retreat. Color guard halt. About face. Dismiss. At ease.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well done. The next item on our agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or changes?
We need to,
To have the minutes removed from the approval of the agenda.
Okay, we need a motion to have the minutes, item number 5, the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of February 18, 2021, removed from tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll
Yeah,
call.
We didn't get them, we had them in time, we just didn't post them. We missed it, so obviously you guys can't approve them since you haven't seen them.
And the idea, we would approve both February and March at our April board meeting.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Any more discussion, questions?
No.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yockey?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Next item B is presentations. I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board, and our esteemed guests. I'd like to turn it over to Mark Trout, our junior high athletic director.
Good evening, everybody. How we doing?
Good, good.
Great.
Fantastic to see everybody tonight. We had lots of individual and team successes this year in the winter season for the junior high, including 3 of 4 of our boys basketball teams were in the Final Four of the ECC League tournament. We had 1 runner-up in that group. We also had a runner-up in our girls basketball league tournament for the ECC, and a 2nd place finish for our competitive cheer teams, which was awesome, including a lot of other individual successes as well. But tonight we want to take an opportunity to highlight 2 outstanding special accomplishments from our winter programs of wrestling and diving. These 8th grade athletes excelled as champions, and we look forward to watching them during their careers in high school. So first up, I'd like to invite Daniel Walker to join me up here. Hi, Daniel. Daniel's an ECC junior high wrestling champion in the 245-pound weight class. As a matter of fact, Daniel is a 2-time ECC champion because he won in the 7th grade as well. This season, he was undefeated at 15-0, and I believe, if I counted correctly, 15 of those wins, 11 of them were by pin, which is unbelievable. Daniel also plays football and throws in track, so he is a 3-sport athlete. Daniel is looking forward to going to Milford High School, making a huge impact in the programs up there. Daniel was coached by Brad Cunningham and Tim Pope. Coach Pope is here if he would stand up. So we would like to congratulate the wrestling program and Daniel on an outstanding, successful season. Daniel, here's a certificate for you. Congratulations, buddy. Next up, I'd like to invite Lily Brown to come forward, please. Lily is a diver, among other things. She is also a 3-sport athlete. Hi, Lily. She's also a 3-sport athlete at Milford Junior High. She ran cross country in the fall, and she's in track right now in the spring. So she's also a 3-sport athlete. But diving in particular this past winter, she was a Southwest Ohio Junior High diving champion. The league doesn't offer swimming and diving championship just as a league. So what happens is they get the entire city, the entire Southwest Ohio together, and they have one large tournament for everybody, all the junior highs in Southwest Ohio. So out of the entire region, Lily won in the diving championship in Southwest Ohio, which is amazing. Also, besides cross-country, track, and diving, I'd like to highlight the third quarter just ended, and Lily had a 4.0 at the end of the third quarter. So an outstanding student as well. Lily was coached by Emma Fry, who is our diving coach. I believe Emma is here, so she can step forward and wave. So we would like to congratulate Lily and Emma and the diving program on their successes at the junior high level. Lily, here's a certificate for you. Congratulations. Well done. Thank you. Both of these students are outstanding, tremendous young people. They represent all of our student athletes very well. We wish them all the best, and go Eagles. Thank you. And now I'll introduce Mr. Aaron Zupka to do some high school recognitions.
Daniel and Lily, congratulations. Outstanding work, seriously.
Thanks, Mark, and congrats to our junior high athletes and all the others being recognized tonight. It's an honor to be here tonight. If I'm here, that means something great is happening here. So I am proud and excited to introduce our 5 state swimming qualifiers. Just for reference, the 5 was the most we've had in over 10 years, since 2011. So it shows you, if anything, how long it has been and how hard it is to get there in Canton. So at this point, I'm going to introduce them, have them come up here and stand up here and talk a little bit about them. So we'll go by name here. We have Aaron Fentress, Evan Fentress, Nick Welty, Paul Menker, and Owen Ferrara. So like I said, we had 5 state swimmers, and they qualified in 5 events. Aaron was in the 50 free, which she finished 12th in the state of Ohio as a sophomore. I want to also mention she was the ECC Coast Swimmer of the Year as a sophomore. Our ECC is probably considered top to bottom the best swimming conference around. So to do that as a sophomore is pretty remarkable. Evan qualified in state in 100 fly and finished 6th overall in the state. He's a junior. And he also swam the 200 free and finished 11th and broke a school record in that event as well. All 4 of our gentlemen up here were part of 2 relays, the 200 medley relay and the 400 free relay. They were 23rd in the state, but the Ohio meet is considered the fastest high school swim meet in the nation. So I don't know if you knew that. Southwest Ohio is very competitive, but our state of Ohio is the most competitive in the nation by time. So to get there and then to place that high is truly remarkable. Even in addition to all that, this year with COVID, a lot of restrictions were placed, even sectionals, everything was spread out. The competition was a little different, and they cut the number of qualifiers for relays from 32 to 24 teams. So even as hard as it is, it was more difficult this year. So the fact that they're there, and the best part, all these swimmers are coming back. There's no seniors here, so we're really excited about that. So I know Emma Fry's here, Coach Fry. Coach Stillwell could not be here, but our coaching staff and Coach Zach did a phenomenal job this year. Obviously, our student athletes, swimming's a really hard sport. Any sport you have to dye your hair and ride on your body is a tough sport, let me tell you. So we are very proud of you. Like I said, the best part is you're all coming back, and those records you broke, the school records, the state stuff, you're going to shatter next year. So congratulations. We're very proud of you.
Next up is Dan Yeager, our Director of Fine Arts and Extracurriculars.
Yeah, we're here tonight to recognize a joint program we have with Live Oaks. One of our partnerships is our Raider team and our JROTC program. So fortunately, we have a phenomenal program, and they were allowed to compete at their national competition in Molina, Georgia, a couple weekends ago. So the Live Oaks Co-Ed Raider team placed 4th at the All Services Raider competition. So this is schools from all over the world, country, sorry, that were there. And these guys are phenomenal athletes in their own right. It's very non-traditional that what we think of as athletics, but there's, invested and work as hard, if not harder, than our varsity sports. So we need to give them the recognition they deserve. In their competitions, they were 7th in rope bridge, 2nd in the gauntlet, 6th in the 5K, and 4th in the physical team test. I can tell you about all these competitions, but they had a GoPro with them, so I was able to put together, it's about a 4.5-minute video to sort of show you what they did. So if we can play that, then we'll recognize them afterwards.
Go, people, let's go!
Everybody hesitate. Pass them through.
Go, let's go, let's go. Gotta move, gotta move.
Go, I think. Guys, help it! Don't just watch! Get up there! Equipment! Right there, stand top. Got it? I don't want to step on your... It's all right. Got it? Step on us, we don't move. Got it? Step on it all you need. Push it! Stop waiting for your cut.
Come on, guys.
Come on, Coach, go.
Don't lose the time.
I gotcha. You can't. All right. Run. Don't crash. Go.
There you go, Tabby. Let's go, grab it.
pictures are definitely better than words in that. So, I mean, talk about the camaraderie and the teamwork and just the family that we have in the JROTC and that they compete at a national level is pretty fantastic. So I'm going to have First Sergeant Einon and Captain Poloff, who are their commanders, come up. They probably won't say anything, and I don't know if I want to give First Sergeant the microphone. You heard him and yelling at these guys in the background a little bit.
I don't need a microphone.
Yeah, so they're going to introduce the kids. I'm going to invite the JRTC to start with Mr. Spicer, and if you guys want to shake hands, bump fists, elbows, I'll pick that up in a second. And then we'll meet, they can line up over here when they're finished.
All right, up first is our far sider. She was the first one to cross the river, Miss Kroll A.
Go down, start with Mr. Spicer and work our way back. I'm going to have her work back this way and line up over here.
Her sister, Miss Kroll B. Our sophomore, Miss Another sophomore, Miss Herman. This is part of the event, guys. We'll be all right. Junior, Miss Chris Weiser. Another junior, Mr. Cushing. Another sophomore, Mr. Luttrell. Now we're getting to the ones, almost the rest of them are going away. 3 of these people are also full ride scholarship winners. Go ahead and raise your hand if you want a full ride scholarship worth $250,000. Thank you very much. Mr. Prim. Mr. Pritchard. Miss Snyder. Mr. Thompson. Mr. Tremblay. And our last junior, Mr. Whirling. And unable to make it tonight was our far side girl, the one that said quick pull the rope, Miss Tabitha Brownie. Bring back the group picture out now.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to thank you for recognizing cadets. Their competition that beat them were military academies from Sarasota, Florida, and from North Georgia. And they choose from 2,000 cadets. We choose from 170, and we hung on with the best. So they did a great job. Congratulations to you, and really
Congratulations.
fantastic program.
Thank
And really accomplished that. The visual was great for us to see, because sometimes you can't visualize that.
It gets me motivated, makes me want to do it. I just need 20 years of,
Maybe everything except for the little tunnel thing. I think I could have done
yeah, I
without
don't
the
think I
tunnel
can
thing.
fit through that. Thanks, guys.
I think that's our team building for this June, for the board and the central office team.
I resign.
We'll be over.
I'll meet you there, John. We'll meet
Got
you
it.
there.
Oh, it'd be great.
And this was in Georgia?
Yes, sir. This was in
I
Georgia.
asked one of the cadets, they said the water was very, very cold.
That's what I was thinking, cold water.
But seriously, congratulations to our co-ed Raider team. our cadets, and then also they left before I had a chance to say something, but the swimming team, what an outstanding accomplishment this year. And what's really great for me personally is seeing a lot of these students that I've seen grow up, a lot of them I know, and seeing some of the accomplishments they've been able to reach has been really exciting for me personally.
It's really, really nice when you see multi-sport athletes with great grades to go on top of it, and Evan with a 6th place in the 100 fly goes up permanently in the gymnasium on that banner that we have in there. So, excellent accomplishments. And
they're all coming back.
And they're all coming back.
Good. Great. Okay, we've reached item C on our agenda this evening, and that is our first public participation. Would anybody like to speak this evening?
I have no.
Anyone would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to item D, our Board of Education. And we have our first item, which is our board meeting date change. We'll need a motion to change the date of our May board meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll say a few words. Having in my life previous to this board, having worked with the athletic boosters, they are doing flight night. It's typically in March. This year they weren't able to do it in March for obvious reasons, but as things continue to improve, they've been able to secure the Oasis once again, and right now they are allowed to have 450 people there. A normal crowd for this event is 600 to 700 people, so they're very happy that they can get it, and we're a little hopeful that that we are going to maybe get it opened up a little bit more as we get closer to the date. I know there's going to be a waiting list right now. I think they've already sold 350 tickets, so it's a great event. Flight night is a fabulous event. It's kind of a celebration of the whole athletic department, and they're working together, and this year it's kind of a coming out party for Milford. It comes in the midst of things like, we have flight night. We have, shortly after that, we're going to have Frontier Days. We've got graduation, lots of things that we were not able to do last year or barely able to do. And now we're back on track. For those of you that are interested, the speaker is former UC coach Bob Huggins. And there are people scrambling for tickets right now because everybody wants to hear Bob. So I know they look forward to hearing from you. There'll be some flyers out here shortly. And Todd Moore runs a great event. And if you get an opportunity to go, you will certainly enjoy it. So that's my 2 minutes. Sorry.
Well, and I think that the athletic boosters try to make sure that they find a date that doesn't conflict with our meeting under normal circumstances. This is unusual in the sense that you have to time it based upon availability. We're coming off of a pretty restrictive environment related to being able to host events like this. And of course, the keynote speaker themselves have to be available as well. And so this just happened to be, it happened to happen on the night of our May board meeting. So the request is to move that board meeting to a week earlier, which would be May 13th. We would continue to have it on a Thursday at 6 o'clock here in these board offices. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Our treasurer report, Treasurer Brian Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. First item is the approval of the financial board reports for the month ending February 28th, 2021.
A motion to approve the board financial reports.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a couple items I wanted to point out. We did start receiving real estate tax advance payments from Claremont County here in February, so that is reflected. I don't expect the final settlement to be received until April, just because there was a delay in Claremont County getting the tax bills out. So There's a little bit of timing you'll see on some of the reports if you look at last year's reports. Also wanted to mention, last month we talked about how the state was, originally they cut us to 1.2 million. They changed that to a little over 500. In February, they did give us a large lump sum of that back cut pay, however you want to phrase it. So we did see that in February as well. We did end the month with a little over $44 million in the bank. And interest on the month was a little over $29,000 for little over $311,000 on the year.
Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
The next item is the acceptance of a donation from the Mulberry Krogers for 15 to 20 boxes of hand sanitizer.
We need a motion to approve the donation of 15 to 20 boxes of hand sanitizer from Mulberry Kroger.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, discussion?
That's valuable stuff.
Yeah.
I think most of it was probably distributed today.
Okay, good. Any more comments, discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Next item is the recommendation to approve the disposal of 44 projectors as listed.
We need a motion for the disposal of 44 projectors.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion.
These are projectors that are being disposed of because going with the new whiteboards, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, the new whiteboards.
And maybe disposal is a bad word. They're not necessarily going to be disposed.
No,
but
we
we're
will attempt to sell them
to sell them, correct.
in various ways. Yes. Yeah, we believe there's still some value in them for somebody. So
Good.
we will make an attempt to sell them.
Good. Comments, discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Item 4 is the recommendation of the Milford Ultimate Frisbee Club, the establishment of the club.
We need a motion to approve the establishment of the Milford Ultimate Frisbee Club.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, discussion?
Dan, you want to help me out here?
Yeah, this was under the umbrella of the Drug-Free Coalition for a few years, and we've got lots of students interested in it. It's one we wanted to bring under the school club membership. So we've got roughly 30 kids that participate. Peter Lutman is a longtime volunteer with the Drug Coalition, is willing to continue to do it, so we'll get him background, make sure he has a valid background check, and he's actually on the agenda as a volunteer to do that. The league is maybe happening this year, we're not sure, but they have been the Ohio State Ultimate Frisbee champs in the past. So it's a very valuable activity at the high school and junior high. It's just another outlet for kids to be creative and do what they find a fun activity to do.
Great.
Are there other ACC schools that are doing that?
There aren't. It's a club that's sort of community-based, so I think, there's multiple communities that have programs.
Very good.
And you don't have a GoPro for this one?
I did not pull highlight video from last year, sorry.
Wrong.
Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Item 5 is the approval of the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
We have a motion to do what Brian said.
So moved.
That's a long one.
Second.
Motion is second.
This is a resolution, basically you have to certify the tax rates to the county auditor in order then for them to collect the taxes on the board's behalf. So this is an annual resolution that we do annually.
An annual necessary resolution.
Correct.
Basically, it says we need the money, right?
Pretty
That's
much.
what it says.
They won't collect it unless you certify it.
Second that.
Hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Chestnut?
yes,
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Brian Ray. We'll move on to Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. Under number 1, we do have the first reading of the following 13 policies. Those were a part of the policy committee this month. So there's just the first reading of those. No approval is needed at this time. Under number 2, policies for approval, we are asking for your approval of the following 4 policies listed that were presented to you last month as well.
Okay, we need a motion
So moved.
regarding the adoption of the regulations and exhibits as presented.
Still so moved.
We got a
Second.
motion and a second? Comments? Questions?
Just one question. So these are resolutions, and aren't they? They're marked with ours?
A regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are regulations, yes.
So technically, we don't need to vote on these. We always read them, I know. But is that what are we going to do
We
that
did,
as a?
we did, a few months ago, we did approve the regulations.
We have in the past.
Yeah, it's kind of been variable whether we approve them or not. It seems
Yeah,
like we always read them.
If the state law requires that you have a regulation, then you do have to approve them. If the
Okay.
state doesn't require it, you technically don't have to.
Thank you.
But I think they've always been brought to the board.
Okay.
Any other comments?
So does that leave us
Okay.
voting on this or not?
Yes.
Yes, you would still want to vote on it.
Okay.
Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Chestnut?
yes,
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item 3, we do have some policies to rescind. There are 4 policies, 2 policies, 2 regulations. They are all related to FFCRA, which is COVID leave, which is no longer in effect at this time. 12/31 is 2020 was when they were over, and they've not been passed again by President Biden. So we're asking you to rescind these policies.
And this would be just our first reading. You have to read them first, and then next month you would officially vote to rescind.
Okay, so there is
no action needed.
There is no
on this
action
one.
today, okay.
Very good. Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
So do we need to adjust this on the agenda because it says action?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay.
So make a motion to remove the action, or
So we need a motion to
adjust the agenda.
adjust the recommended action on the agenda, which is motion to rescind. There is no action at this time due to this being a first reading of this policy.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second, discussion?
I think this is the first time we've ever rescinded policies. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah, we had to look up exactly how we had to proceed with the rescind because of it.
Well, because these were temporary policies to begin with, and so we knew at some point in time we would have to rescind these. So COVID creates these short-term things, right?
Yeah, there's lots of them.
Any other comment on the change to the agenda? We need a roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Chestnut?
yes,
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to Human Resources, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. I am asking for your following, approval of the following certified items. Under item A, approval of the following certified resignations, 1 through 3. Would like to point out that number 3 there, Jane Wolf, teacher at Boyd E. Smith Elementary, is retiring after being with the district for some time, so we want to congratulate her, retirement at the end of the year. Under item B, approval to pay the following certified employees a stipend for mentoring student teachers. numbers 1 through 5. And item C, approval of the family care leave of absence without pay for the following employee. Number 1.
We need a motion to approve, under certified approvals, items A, B, and C.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item 2, asking for your approval of the following classified items. Under item A, approval of classified hiring recommendations for the 2021 school years, numbers 1 through 4. Item B, approval of the following classified resignations, numbers 1 through 6. And in there, we do have Kathy Barrows, who is the longtime secretary for the district at Pattison Elementary. She is retiring. Also, Marcia Dow, number 4 there. She has been a very long time as well, Cypelt Elementary Secretary. She will be retiring. And we've got Tammy Tummeyer, Pattison Elementary Teacher Aide. She is retiring as well. Ruth Bowling, Teacher Aide at the high school, another retirement. And Sandra Brown is another retirement as well.
Under classified approvals, we need a motion to approve items A and B.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank these people who are cruising into retirement for their service to the district. Some of them have very, very long years. I know I was provided with a list of how many years earlier in the week, and it's amazing how many years they've put in there. I think the average is over 20. So congratulations, and hope they enjoy their retirement.
Yeah, I'll second that. Congratulations. The one that stands out for me is Kathy at Pattison. Miss Kathy, all of our kids have went there, and she's got a tough job. She's got to manage us as parents, as well as students sometimes, and she's done an outstanding job of it. So good luck to her in her retirement, and all the rest as they move into having some fun, hopefully relaxing. Any other comments? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item 3, asking for your approval of the following athletic extracurricular supplemental contract recommendations for the 2021 school year. Under item A, approval of additional site supervisor hours for the following employees, numbers 1 through 6. Item B, approval of building supplemental contract recommendations for the 2021 school year, number 1. And letter C, approval of athletic extracurricular supplemental contract recommendations for the 2021 school year 1 and 2.
Okay, we need a motion for the athletic extracurricular supplemental contract recommendations for 2021, items A through C.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item number 4, I'm asking for your approval of the following volunteers for the 2021 school year, numbers 1 through 4.
We need a motion for the approval of volunteers, items A.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Great to have volunteers. So thankful.
Hearing no further comment, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under number 5, we do have a memorandum of understanding with the Milford Education Association that we're asking for your approval. Inside of that memorandum of understanding is a result of a meeting between central office team and the MEA regarding supplemental contracts. And inside of that, there's a junior high school VEX robotics to add some positions, supplemental contracts there, high school bowling assistant coach, and our local professional development committee reps and chairperson to increase their stipends as well. And then the community swim coordinator to increase that hourly pay as well.
We need a motion to approve the MOU with MEA.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Comments?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to curriculum and instruction, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. This evening, I've asked Mr. Paul Daniels, our Director of Secondary Curriculum, to give us a testing plan update for this school year, amongst some other things. I'll turn it over to Mr. Paul Daniels.
Good evening, President Ham, members of the board, Treasurer Rabe, Superintendent Spicer. Just want to take a few minutes this evening to review our state testing plan. It will be a little different than our past years due to implications of COVID and some new legislation. Just want to review that the state of Ohio requires all students in grades 3 through 8 to take standardized tests each year in language arts and mathematics. Students in grades 5 and 8 also take a state assessment in science. High school graduation tests or end of course exams, you'll hear those words used interchangeably. The state of Ohio requires all enrolled in high school courses to take the following tests for graduation: Algebra 1, Biology, Geometry, English 2, American History, and American Government. Geometry is a federally required test. It is not used anymore for graduation. The state did attempt to take that out a few years ago, only to find out that it cannot do that because it is in federal legislation. We often get asked, where is the opt-out? And we're hearing that a little more this year due to safety and COVID and why families chose Eagle Online. When this presentation goes live, parents will have this hyperlink document up there. There simply is no opt-out. We do respect the parents' decisions to keep their children at home because they are keeping them home because of COVID. We just ask that they connect with their building principal. For Eagle Online, that would be Mrs. Espy. At the junior high, that would be Mrs. Getz. And at the high school, that's Mr. Kaufman. I will tell you at the high school, I often am asked, what would you do as a parent? And I say that it's harder when you're not in the course. So if you're on the fence about taking it for algebra and English 2 especially, because those are competency-based, and that's part of your graduation, I would suggest if you feel comfortable with our safety plan after you talk to Mr. Kaufman, that it is easier when you're enrolled in the course. It gets harder when you're not. All right, so you'll hear a lot about House Bill 67. That just, I'm not even sure if it's been signed by the governor. It did get passed out of the state Senate last night. It was passed, what as I would say is veto proof if he did decide to veto it. It allows for grade substitution for American history and American government for current juniors and seniors. It actually also says that we don't have to give the American history test. We have not talked about that with our building, and we haven't talked about that as a cabinet. It does does allow for grade substitution, meaning if you get an A, a B, or a C, you're considered proficient. And also that grade substitution does allow you still to get an honors diploma. The seal, social studies seal or citizenship seal on the diploma actually comes from those two tests, or AP testing. Current 8th and 9th and 10th graders will need to meet competency in Algebra 1 and English 2. There is no grade substitution for current year courses. In the legislation, it says those kids have more time. I would argue that's very difficult in a pandemic. So we're making adjustments for juniors and seniors in House Bill 67. There is no reprieve or no adjustment for current courses. They do allow you to keep your grade substitutions from last school year. So if you were in algebra at the junior high or the high school and you got an A, a B, or a C, that grade substitution was loaded up into our student system and you were considered as being competent. The state is saying current 8th, 9th, 10th graders who are sitting in Algebra 1 and English 2, you sit for that test. You're either going to sit for it now or you're going to sit for it later. So if a parent chooses not to take it now, we respect that choice. They're going to have to sit at some point to demonstrate competency for graduation. Biology tests will count. While they are not used for competency, they are used for the science seal. And so that test will count for our current 9th graders. It is important to note that value added will not be assigned to teachers, but scores count for individual students and data will be reported. We are hearing that we will get a report card next year, but it will not be used to expand Ed Choice. That's the voucher program for districts that fall in that category. And it will not affect school rankings. So again, I hate to keep saying it, but students currently enrolled in Algebra, ELA 2, and Biology are taking tests that count for them and impact their progress. And I did mention about geometry already. We are confident our staff has been doing their best and that our students are prepared. We continue to adjust and pivot as new legislation is passed that impacts our students. And we'll rely on ODE's guidance moving forward. So oftentimes, we're looking at a situation that's very fluid. We're going to need to access 2 additional remote days at both the junior high and the high school. Number 1 is the volume of tests needed to be administrated and the lack of space. We have to move devices from other buildings. For students to utilize with the secure testing browser, it's easier to do that in a single location versus all the elementaries. And there really is a lack of space. And we were honest up front. If you go back to our return to learning plan, we did inform our Eagle Online families that they would need to come on site for testing. There is no ability to remote test in Ohio. You choose as a district a paper test or an online test. We've chosen online, we're equipped for that, we've done that for many years. When people hear that we have an online test, they assume that I can do that from home. It's not designed that way. You're on site, you have to be in front of our employees. It is not like the College Board did with AP testing. So I just want to give you a brief overview, big picture. So our elementary in-person students will typically have 4 to 6 half-days. That's going to remain the same. Our junior high in-person students will have 2 to 3 testing days for in-person and 2 remote days, similar to our vaccination days. High school in-person testing will be split between alternate schedules and combining with Eagle Online on the same day. When we say combining, that means they're coming into the building. We have smaller test groups, we have separate spaces. It's just we're going to test them on the same days for a couple of the tests as our in-person students. And again, we'll have 2 remote days similar to our vaccination days. I'll give you an example. On the day that we're going to do ELA 10 at the end of this month, we will have 498 10th graders and all of our Eagle Online students in the same building. They will not mix, they will have separate entrances, but it allows us to test 900-ish students in one location. We have large testing rooms. We're going to cordon that off in the 9th grade community. Students will not mix for restrooms or any other. We're going to have teachers volunteer as hall monitors to help the students in elementary, but it will be separate. But it allows us to accomplish 2 big buckets. If we would have to do Eagle Online Elementary, we don't have the space, number 1, and it would be happening over many days. Right now we can do it in 2 days. Unless you're a 5th grader, you're going to have to do an additional day of science. So again, in the elementary, 3rd, 4th, and 6th, we're going to have 2 testing dates at Milford High School in the 9th grade community for our Eagle Online. They're going to have 21 testing rooms. We were able to even use some high school teachers to help proctor. And then on that 3rd test for grade 5, we're going to split those students between this room here and 3 other elementaries. We've done that before. And we can handle that for a day. And again, elementary in person will be 4 to 6 half days as it's been common practice. At the junior high, again, as our in-person students, 7th grade is going to have those 2 days. Eighth grade does have science, so they'll have that third day. The nice thing is we're going to have normal classes for grade levels that are not testing. Remote learning on Eagle Online on ELA and math testing days will be March 26th and April 23rd only. Those are their remote days. And then again, we're not taking classes from one group more than we are the other. We're being equitable. So if we have 2 missed days for our in-person learners, that's only 2 missed days for our Eagle Online students. We try to be very equitable in trying to accomplish this. When we did decide to give our families a choice, we knew that when testing came about, we would have some challenges with our volume. So we believe the benefits are set up, first of all, is equity and safety. We're respecting the decisions families made to choose Eagle Online, balanced with state and federal guidelines to implement testing. We actually are going to have more instructional days utilizing this plan. We're very happy with that. We hear a lot about learning loss and more days away from testing, so we will be able to combine parts. That has been our practice anyways. We generally give both parts of English in one day, both parts of math in one day. So that allows us to really maximize the time and the space. And again, Eagle Online students will be receiving instruction during the days that in-person students are testing. It allows for single site usage for Eagle Online Elementary for math and English language arts with separate entrances and limited enrollment at Milford High School on both those testing days. And again, we'll only have 498 10th graders at the high school that day. There will be approximately as many Eagle Online students as there are 10th graders in the building. And it allows us to consolidate our resources. That's both Chromebooks and our technology support through VARTech. So that's the kind of the nuts and bolts. This will be posted for our families. I also wanted to say that on the second testing day at the high school, there'll be approximately 300 high schoolers, 105 junior high students, and our 3rd through 6th ELA for math. So we're really maximizing separate entrances. Our high schoolers will use a separate entrance from our elementary students. They're actually going to have a little later of an arrival time. And our junior high students, Eagle Online 8th graders, will actually test in the building that day. So again, we do respect the decisions of our families, but we do advise that we've made arrangements for them to meet their needs, and we want them to feel safe.
How are we handling transportation related to Eagle Online and when we move students from one building to another for testing?
So the good news is on the day that our 10th graders take ELA, our yellow bus will run for junior high and high school as normal. For our testing days up to this point for 3rd grade fall and some of our gifted identification, parents have been bringing their students and picking them up. That is a responsibility that they have been taking ownership of, and they do bring them. We do work with anybody if they have a transportation issue, but they'll have a specific time of drop-off and a specific time of pickup. Our elementary students will be asked to bring a snack, and a reading book has been practiced all year long should they need time in between tests or their ride gets there.
Any other questions regarding testing before Paul goes into the learning loss plan?
When do we expect this will be available to parents? It's a complex calendar. And so if you're looking at when are you going to take the test, when are my kids going to be home for remote learning, the more advanced we can give to the parents, the better, obviously. And you're taking this all off of, they just passed this thing last night, so a lot of what we're doing is based upon what the final resolution was at the state level and making adjustments as we go, and I know that's tough to do. But I think that the parents will be looking for what days they need to know when their students will, the kids will be home.
At the high school, each student received and parent received an individualized email from Liz Emmons yesterday. Okay. Mrs. Getz put this in her newsletter approximately, I think, 2 weeks ago. So parents were kind of aware of what those remote days and schedules are. And Mrs. Espy has been working with her staff and parents as well. So we've been trying to be transparent, and we will also post this and do another real big push during this this coming week to remind them that about the importance of testing. But this is out into the ethos. We understand the goodwill that we need to make the remote days work, but we also want to continue to respect and make sure we're keeping kids safe, especially if they chose Eagle Online.
Great. Thank you, and thank for all, you and the team for all the work.
Paul's going to dive into the learning loss plan, which is a coined phrase by Governor DeWine, who a couple months ago said, you need to have a learning loss plan by April 1. You don't have to submit it, but you have to have one, and you have to post it so that families have access to it. We've been working on this for some time, and we'll let Paul run through the learning loss plan, and we'll post this to the district website and push it out to families as well after this evening.
It should be linked in the presentation. I will just email it to him real quick. Roy, send it in your email if you want to just pull it up from there. Thanks. While he's pulling it up, I'm not going to read the top verbatim, but it does talk a little bit about our instructional model, recognizing that 80% of our students roughly have been in person and 20% of our students have been in Eagle Online. It's running currently at about 80.5% and 19.5%. We did talk a little bit about internally what data we have that's not tied to the state of Ohio. We have our grades K-2 Ames Web. If you want to scroll down, Roy, thank you so much. Grade K-2 Ames Web, grade 3 Pearson ReadyGen, that's our ELA core utilization and map assessments, as well as our math investigations. Same for grades 4 and 5, grade 6 teacher created assessments in ELA, and Envision in math. Again, 7-8, Envision, Carnegie end of unit assessments for math, and then utilizing our teacher created assessments, ELA, and Carnegie end of assessments in math. The buckets that we're choosing to put our money in for this summer is academic supports, credit recovery senior summer school. You actually have the credit recovery summer school fees on your agenda coming up shortly. Individual student learning plans for targeted instruction K-8. We're going to purchase Ames Web with this money to do both a May implementation as well as a fall, spring, or fall, winter, spring next year to really see how those gaps are progressing or if they're there. And then summer graduation testing at the high school. We do foresee having more seniors than normal in senior credit recovery summer school. We're going to continue to focus on our social emotional learning supports. We're going to expand the use of the panorama that is just looking at belonging, connectedness, emotional state, and it gives us targeted skills or groups of students that will need support. We have been using Edgenuity, which is an SEL learning support software. We did pilot that this spring at the high school for advisory, and we will deploy that to the junior high as well. And we'll look at a universal SEL screener for K-6. We've also put some money, we want to put some money towards professional development, which is continuing restorative practices, school counselor professional development on trauma-informed instruction, high anxiety. We want to work with the International Institute of Restorative Practices to monitor and further develop our district approach to restorative practices throughout the entire school district. Particularly because we believe that there may be some COVID fatigue setting in for both adults and students. We want to look at focusing on this after school next year versus this summer. Utilizing funds to support students through an after-school extended day program, focusing on academics and SEL. that we would include transportation, utilizing supports to, utilizing funds to support individual students through after-school credit recovery at the high school, and then district-wide utilization of building subs to continue to support absences related to COVID-19. While the pandemic seems to be going this way, we do realize we will still have some absences for staff due to COVID-19, and consistent faces throughout the district to support students to step in would be best.
Paul referenced money. It's important to know where that money's coming from. It is not coming from the general fund. It would be coming from the federal COVID dollars, the ESS, ER money. So it's COVID relief money, not general budget, and it will be expended on these items first before it would be expended on anything else.
And just to be clear, that money can only be spent on certain items. So it's not as if we
Correct.
could pull that into the general fund anyway. We have to find items that are related.
COVID-related only.
Yep.
Those dollars can only be spent on COVID-related items, with this being priority one. And then thereafter could be things such as hand sanitizer, electrostatic sprayers, HVAC, other things, other items.
I do appreciate, what is the title of the presentation? Was it Lost Learning?
Learning loss plan.
Learning loss. I don't know if that's exactly the right phrase, bridge or gap, or we do know that we are probably, not just here, but everywhere, we're probably behind because of COVID. We know that, and some of the testing might prove that. But I also appreciate that we can't make it up overnight. You mentioned something in your presentation that, we're trying to spread this out. So we did this, and to get back, it's going to take some time. The stress that the students have been under this year, it's going to be tough for them to try and push to catch up over a summer. Some would argue, including me, that they need the summer, not to try and get back right away, but to try and slowly get back to where we were before all of this began.
Well, as our team discussed, it's got to be, we have to push all the way into next year. Nothing gets erased in 2 to 3 weeks. It has to be a data-driven approach 4 times K-8, and then looking at how we can help students earn credits or have intervention for their math and ELA for graduation.
I guess the only higher pressure is on seniors who are trying to get to graduation, right?
There is a lot of leeway in House Bill 67 for juniors and seniors. Grade replacement will be a huge help. They usually only have American government as senior year left. They do qualify for both the old graduation requirements and the new graduation requirements. We've worked with them. We know who's has a testing hurdle. We're still cleaning up credit recouping those. So our issue really with seniors isn't testing, it's credit recoupment. So we're continuing to work with Josh and Liz Hartley and Liz Emmons over at the high school to continue to be laser focused on, and Rob Hatfield, who are our seniors are at risk. We've met once, we're gonna meet again, continue to look at them individually so that we help as many kids succeed as possible.
I think one thing you said, Chris, is really important, and that is that this isn't Milford, this isn't individual families or our district that is being affected, it's everybody. So, everybody's in the same boat, and we all need to approach this in a way that's healthy, physically and emotionally for our kids. And I think that what you're talking about is very smart, spreading it out, doing this slowly. But just remember, everybody's facing this.
But at the same point, we want to prepare them as best we can to go out to college or the workplace, and saying it's acceptable to have a different standard because of this is kind of doing them a little bit of a disservice. So, and I know we're going to work toward getting them caught up and keeping them caught up, even the ones that are going to disappear from the high school at the end of the year.
I think it's important to note that, as you say, a different standard. There's not a different standard here. our standards are the same. And our goal is to make sure that all of our students reach that goal and reach those standards. So I think that's important to know. We're certainly not lowering our standards here at Milford. I also believe that, as I've spoken with all of our teachers in the last few weeks, is that we're in a better position than most. We have not only been in person for the 75 to 80% of our students, but we've also had our 15 to 20% of Eagle Online students. They're being taught by our teachers using our curriculum. We're not just throwing them out to Virtual Learning Academy or something of that nature. We're not buying a program. It's our program. So I think that, you know, there will be gaps, but I feel like and believe that we will be positioned as well. And I don't, my heart and my head tells me that we're not sending anyone out, seniors, that would be substandard just because House Bill 67 says they can replace grades with and not take a standardized test.
Okay.
Agree with that.
We haven't lowered any standard. There's a stipulation in the bill that I struggle with greatly. It means, it says something to the extent of if you just give a kid an Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal, plus their credits, you can graduate them. We've been using a credentialing program for any student that has been struggling with competency for years. We've already had identified them and actually we were down to 4 for testing. Every individual student, they just have challenges. And one of the things we've talked about, I don't know if it was Rob, Jenny, Jill, John, myself, is we often hear about equity of technology. With online learning, there's equity of the supports that you have at home. And not every child has the equal supports at home to be an online learner. So we've invited students back. We've just brought 8 back at the junior high. We brought 6 sophomores back. We're continuing to bring them back even into the 4th quarter. Begging them, sending certified mail, doing everything we can, home visits. We're not giving up on our kids. We will not give up on them. And we're doing everything we can even to meet the families who have severe anxiety about returning to school in a pandemic. So we're doing all that we can collectively with our students and families.
Yeah, Paul, just want to thank you and your team for putting both of these areas together that are important, and also a really smooth technology pivot tonight on that presentation. It was impressive as well.
It's obvious an awful lot of people are putting a lot of extra time into all this, so we certainly appreciate all the efforts of all the people who are working on that.
In a very changing day-by-day landscape, too, coming from Columbus, so.
All right, thank you again, Paul Daniels, for that testing plan and learning loss plan as well, presentation. I'm going to move on to a few more items for approval under the curriculum and instruction, and that is item 2. We do have VEX Robotics, April 16th and 17th in Marion, Ohio, 6 teams, 30 students and 3 teachers, plus parents. As always, parents will provide the transportation. Students will miss school on April the 16th. Great Oaks will provide the compensations for the substitute teachers. The cost to participate is covered by the robotics boosters and students, and COVID protocols will be enforced.
Under item 2, field trip for VEX Robotics, we need a motion to approve the Milford High School VEX Robotics trip to Marion, Ohio, April 16th and 17th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments or discussion?
I'm hoping that maybe Dan knows the story about the robotics kids a couple competitions ago, where they made sure that other teams got to go to, and see, this is where I'm going to get lost. So, you know what I'm talking about?
Pay it forward.
Maybe, but I'm
Pay
not
it forward.
Yeah.
sure. Chris, do you?
Huh?
Do you? I do. I think I don't remember all of it. I know there were pieces, but our robotics kids bend over backwards, not just to help our own kids, but other schools. And I know we've transported some other kids, like some parents have taken some kids from other schools to competitions. So it's a good community, and they do things the right way, so.
Yeah, my understanding is they actually gave up a win
Oh,
in order
yes.
to bring
Yes,
other
I'm
kids.
sorry, yes. So we had two teams that were qualified in the way robotics works. This last round, like the high team gets to pick who they want to go with. And our kids picked the other Milford team, so maybe they didn't, who was also a very high team, but they weren't like in the top, they wouldn't have been the next team picked. But we had chosen the other Milford team to compete with, which was really cool, just to give them sort of help both teams a little bit.
And I believe they also helped some of the teams that were just starting to form and to build, is
Yes.
the way I read the article. So I think it was
Yeah.
Harrison, maybe.
The Harrison they did, and yeah,
And,
it's a great community of robotics, so it's lots of stuff going on like that.
It's one of those good news stories. If you don't read it, you don't see it.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Also, item 3, a field trip for Vex Robotics, the junior high team, same dates, same information items as well, asking for your approval of that trip for the junior high Vex Robotics team.
Need a motion to approve the field trip for Vex Robotics. This will be the junior high, going to the same location and the same dates as the high school.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments, discussion?
It's good to see that some of these things are starting to come back, at least.
Yeah, and I
Seems
think they're
better.
doing safely, and as was mentioned before, our Vex Robotics program is incredible, and to the point that I think at several of these meets, they dominate. And so you hear a story about them giving back and helping along some of these programs that are just getting started. It's a good story. And, you know, a lot of these groups that we've sort of approved of these field trips have done a good job. We haven't had any serious sort of spreads or outbreaks from these events. They run to the events with their family members. It sounds like they do a good job of social distancing at these events and wearing masks. And so it's good that they've been able to experience this and we've been able to do it safely. Hearing no further comment, roll call.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Under item 4, we do have a field trip for the wrestling program. The Milford High School wrestling team would like to attend the Jeff Jordan's State Champ Camp, June 20th through the 24th in St. Paris, Ohio. 12 students and 2 coaches. And the same 5 policies always, families will transport students to St. Paris, Ohio. Wrestlers will lodge at camp facilities. Students will remain on camp facilities and have camp supervision at all times. COVID protocols will be followed, and the cost to participate is not covered by the district.
We need a motion to approve the Milford High School wrestling field trip to Jeff Jordan State Champs Camp, June 20th through the 24th of 2021 in St. Paris, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Any idea how many wrestling teams are participating in that?
I do not know the number of wrestling teams, but I will find out and let you know.
Just curious.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments?
The
Roll call,
wrestling
please.
program that's
Sorry.
on the rise, and it's good to see them taking the extra effort in the summer to go hit the camps.
Well, and it sounds like they're going to get an outstanding wrestler next year from our 8th grade teams, so. that's
Yes,
good to hear.
sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you.
Our final item under curriculum instruction, number 5, is the summer school fees for this summer.
Motion to approve the summer school fees for 2021.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Do you want to just, or somebody want to talk about them a little bit?
Paul? You haven't talked enough this evening.
How are you guys feeling anyway? Are you okay?
I feel great.
That's good.
I'm happy that I'm here and not like last March. Summer school, very simply, we are going to offer, because of the federal money that we will get for learning loss, we will offer all credit recoupment at the high school for free of charge. We are even going to ask any family that will have a transportation roadblock to get here to notify us, and we're going to work with Jeff and his team to see what the possibility is of transporting. We typically do not transport for credit recovery. We will charge $25 for health. That will be all online. We will utilize Apex for that. Possibility of having in-person for health was floated by a parent today. I asked them to give me more time to look into that. And then PE will be, as we've always charged, $175. That is for students who wish to take it in the summer to free up a bell in their schedule. So the fees are back to where they were at the the summer of 2019, except we did usually request a fee to retake a course, but because of the federal money, we're not going to do that.
Thank you, Paul.
Any other comment or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to business operations, Superintendent John Spicer.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. Respectfully ask your approval of the following food service contract with the Norwood Schools. And that would allow us to service them as their food service provider, as we do with other school districts.
Under business operations, we need a motion to approve the food service contract with Norwood Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion?
Just to revisit the whole food service situation, somebody, you want to just talk about that?
Jeff? Jeff would like to speak about Norwood City Schools and their food service operations in Milford.
Or just our philosophy and how
Just
effective
for the
this has
record,
been.
Jeff, it was Andrea, not me, that got you to the podium.
Sorry, Jeff.
I don't doubt that you might have put her up to it, but this will be the fourth public school district outside of Milford that we will provide food service, nutrition services. I don't know if that's a word, but we've had other people. We have some private schools, we have some public schools come to us and ask us to do it. We've got a reputation as being able to provide quality services to these outside school districts. We look at them pretty hard to make sure that it's the right fit, and we've turned down a lot of places because we didn't feel like it was a right fit. We look at our financials every month to make sure that these outside districts are operating in the black. Our food service program is is required to basically make their own money, so that the money that it takes to operate our food service program does not come out of the general fund. It is a separate fund completely. We track that and we make sure that those funds aren't coming out of the general fund. A lot of times districts that are losing money in their food service program and have to supplement that through their general fund are the ones that come to us because they're just struggling with whether it's internally or whether they're contracting with an outside agency. There are private, just like we contract with Peterman, a private company, to do our transportation. There are private companies that do for food service as well. So we're confident that this is a good fit for us. We're confident that it will add to the bottom line. Do we get overly rich off of doing these outside groups? No. The money that we make through food service goes back into food service. We can't just dump it into the general fund. We've got some pretty significant federal guidelines on how that money can be spent. But we're confident that this is going to be a good fit. And again, we monitor that. And if we ever get into a situation where looks like we'll begin losing money, then, we obviously won't continue to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, the food service has been such a huge success story, and everybody involved with that they just do a wonderful job. It is, I think, much more common for districts to lose money on their food service and have to pay for it out of the general fund, so they're taking money that could be used for programs and services and personnel and having to pay for food service. So we have really developed a model that doesn't do that, not only for us, but for other districts, and it's something that I think we should all be very proud of.
Thank you, and Mrs. Levy and her team do a great job. A little bit aside, I just wanted to mention to everybody, while we're talking about food service, we did receive approval to continue the summer program like we did last year. So for Milford, as well as all our outside districts, we'll be continuing to provide free meals, breakfast and lunch for all the districts that we serve throughout the summer.
That's very good news. Thanks, Jeff. Any other comments or questions? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. That moves us into our concluding items, which begins with our second public participation. Do we have anybody signed up? Would anybody like to speak this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on from public participation. And our next regular board meeting will be, well, we may have to make another,
It's at the bottom.
oh, it is?
Yeah.
Sorry, April 15th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Milford Schools Administrative Offices, which are right here on State Route 131. Next, we have any discussion amongst our board members. Emily, you got anything for us?
No.
Very remotely.
Did you do it again?
Yes.
I have one question. Following our board development session last week, are we ready to discuss any of that, or do we still want to individually be thinking about it? And I don't know how people feel after the session.
For those that don't know, we had an open regular session on Saturday of this past week. It was really an opportunity for us to go through a sort of skills workshop on what is the responsibility of a school board and what is governance. And it really, from my standpoint, I think it sort of was an eye-opener in the sense that, are we doing things the way that we should be doing? Are there some opportunities for us to improve and change? And I would like to have some more time to absorb it and look at some of the feedback before we spend too much time on it. But I just want to say it was a 3-hour session that was worth it. Any other comments?
I thought it went very well. I think we have some things to look at in terms of change of focus somewhat in terms of what our responsibilities are.
But we also have to weigh the focus of what was being described to us with the fact that we also have to provide the community with the level of service that they have come to expect from this board. And it was a real eye-opener, and I think there's some opportunities there. I certainly like the fact that it was quality systems related, since that's my bucket. But I just think that we need to review what portions of that we can use and what portions of that would be maybe a little bit more difficult for our constituents to lose some of that hands-on approach. So we're going to have to think about it. I'm going to need a little bit more time to absorb all of that, and I'm also already reading on my phone the book that was described there, and he was right. It's very difficult reading, even more so on an iPhone. So I guess I'm gonna have to buy that book at some point.
Yeah, I really thought the session was helpful. I think there's a lot, and it is a long-term process and long-term changeover. So I thought there was a lot in there that we should be looking at seriously and taking bites moving forward. So I just don't want to lose sight of the opportunities there and how we can start to incorporate those. So, maybe we can plan to discuss within the next board meeting or set up another work session or something to figure out how we want to proceed, if and how we want to proceed.
Agreed.
Unrelated to that, so I'll wait till everyone else has had their opportunity for discussion items.
Okay, first of all, for anybody that's seen the people in the orange shirts walking around here, and some people have already changed out of them, like our superintendent and our treasurer, they did a yeoman's job of getting anybody that wanted to get a Pfizer COVID shot accomplished today. This was the second shot for our district, and it feels pretty good. Personally, I finished my last shot on Monday, and I know how good it feels for me to know that all I got to do is sit for about another 10 days and I'm totally covered. I know the teachers are going to feel the same way, and it's going to come right ahead of spring break, and that's also a good thing, as they're going to take a little bit of R&R and probably be traveling as well. But that whole event, both times, and I came and sat for the last hour at least of both of those events, ran like a clock, and my hat is off to everybody that worked on that. It was just an amazing event. You get in line and you go through that line and you're out in no time flat. So kudos to everybody that was involved in that, and nice job. The other thing that I wanted a little bit of information on, I noticed that we didn't have our people from the school here, our Honor Society people coming in and giving us some updates today. Where do we stand on both prom and on graduation, if you can comment for us, if there's anything that's changed?
It's in my list of things that I want to discuss, so I can comment on it now, or I can wait.
Go ahead. You just
Prom, we're about 90% there, maybe even a little bit closer. We were fully expecting Governor DeWine to make comment today regarding whatever guidelines he is seeing. We, at this time, believe that we can have prom at the Oasis as scheduled. The guidelines state that they have to have masks, but they can dance. Does that mean you can dance, but you have to be 6 feet apart? Which we don't know. I know. I heard that laughter out there. That's our concern.
I keep seeing Footloose in my mind when you talk about stuff like this.
That's exactly what we keep saying. So,
They don't
so
waltz
we do
anymore.
have a plan in place. The Oasis is probably where it's going to be. I believe West Claremont they've said they're going to have a prom. I think they're going to have it at their high school. We're almost there. We just need a few more days. If we don't get something sooner than we believe, then we'll just make the decision to have it, move on, and we'll go from there. What's important for families to know of the students that do attend prom is there is risk reward. The risk is you become a close contact or you get COVID and you miss out on AP testing, which is the first full week of May. The other risk reward is you may not get it then, but you may get it later, and you may not make graduation. And so there is risk reward in everything that we do. So we just want to be fully transparent about that with our families. The other thing you asked about was graduation. Graduation is in person. It will be at the Cintas Center. Josh spoke with them at length. I came in at the very tail end on Wednesday. It looks like about 1,500 family members can make it inside The capacity for indoor seating is 25%. When you put the stage and the curtain up, you lose everything behind it. So we were optimistic of getting about 2,500 family members in. That has been reduced to about 1,500 because not only do you have to, the capacity piece, but they're potting families and they have to be 6 feet apart. So with that, 1,500 will be a push. I think we can safely say that everyone's going to get 2 tickets. They might get 3, and we're pushing for 3, and hopefully with maybe some new guidance from DeWine, Governor DeWine, that could change. So that's where it stands right now. Graduation is on. It will be in person. The kids will be on the floor. We may not have live performances from choir or band because of the capacity. So they'll do some recording and some other things. So that's where those 2 prom and graduation stand.
And just to confirm, it's May 29th, 4 p.m.?
24th, May 24th.
May 24th.
May 24th.
And then what's the date on the prom?
That's April
May-
24th as well.
May 24th? That's a Monday?
22nd, there you go. Thank you,
Okay.
May 22nd.
May 22nd.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And is it 4 p.m.?
Yes. As of right now, yes. Do we just continue on? I have a
Okay.
few more things. Are
Dave,
you
you
done,
good?
Mr. Miranda?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. As Mr. Miranda stated, that all of the folks here that are in orange, were part of making the Vaccine Day #2 happen here. I feel like I've got a shamrock in one hand and a pot of gold in the other. I feel very lucky to be with this group. And, Rob Dunn here really took the lion's share of making everything happen and coordinating with Kroger. So we're very grateful, not only for Rob, but Kroger as well, and just really grateful for the opportunity. We realize that there are thousands upon thousands of people that are still trying to get the vaccine that want it and can't get it because the appointments are gone in 10 minutes or less. So I think it's really important for you to know that we're very grateful. Again, this team, they're all in orange. I did change, and I did put an orange bow tie on so that I could feel part of that team still for tonight. Jen Schaefer and Melissa Kraft spent 3 hours last night making sure that everyone, as they were exiting, they all got a Gatorade, a 2-pack of Tylenol from us, and some hand sanitizer. So they did some nice coordination, and can't thank all of them enough. So again, very grateful to have vaccine #2 in my arm. Related to a little bit about the learning loss plan and also the board work session, you should expect to see at least quarterly some data regarding student performance. And so, this learning loss plan, some of that data we'll be reporting back to you likely in June, probably not in May, but in June, about where our students are and where we believe we're headed with them. So we will continue to update you on student performance and data. Some other things, testing. The team has done a great job of putting together a testing plan for everyone that's fair, equitable. I am, again, disappointed that we are testing. I really believe that President Biden should have sent a letter to each state that says you don't need to do it. But at the same time, we know that there is data that we can take from it, and we will look at it. And we will come up with a plan to fill any gaps that we see with our students. So I think that's it for this evening. Thank you.
I'm very grateful that you all have your shots as well. Definitely needed, and it's been amazing that we have been in school for the majority of this year with just, a few grades here and there, and then the high school for a little bit out on remote. It's a tremendous job, and everybody really pulled together and made this happen. Thank you to everybody who who has worked so hard this year.
I second that.
All right, we've come to the part of the evening that most people do not enjoy. I'm sure our audience doesn't. We need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Oh, we need to set the clock.